Sometimes when you're working with acrylic paints, the paint you're dealing with is a little too thick for you to be able to do what you want to do. It won't make the smooth lines, it's a little globby. So today in Mixed Media Masters, I want to show you different ways that you can thin out acrylic paint to make it more useful, and also shine a little bit of light on what's going to be the best approach. Hello makers, welcome to the studio. If this is your first time here, then absolutely good to have you here. Please feel free to hit that subscribe button at any time. If what we're doing here interests you and excites you, we're dropping new videos every single week regarding abstract art techniques and approaches. And one of the things I want to talk about today is just a very common challenge we run into. Whenever we're buying paint, especially if we're buying relatively bargain paints, I have some acrylics, some basics from Liquitex here that I use. Here's some paint from Sunlayer. And this is all good stuff, but the problem sometimes is that when it comes in its native form, it's a bit thick. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. We'll get some blue over here on this side. There we go. And some of this yellow-orange on the other side. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having thick paint if that's what you're trying to do. But the challenge, of course, is if I'm coming in here and I'm trying to spread things out and I'm trying to make a swoopy line, it's going to look globby. And this is the problem we're running into with some of this stuff. And as you can see, a little bit of this paint can go an awful long way. So one of the things I'm thinking about is how can I do a better job of breaking this paint down or thinning it out so that when I want to be able to spread it around, not have it so thick and globby, I can do just that. So I want to show you a few different methodologies that will help you. And we'll also talk about, any controversies therein and allow you to make some judgment for yourself. I'm just going to spread this stuff out real fast because one of the things I want to show you is a method that allows us to work with both of these colors at the same time. All right, so there we go. So let's start by coming in here. And our first approach is going to be good old-fashioned water. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to thin my water down. Let me drop a little bit in here into my painting ramekin. And what I do with this, of course, is entirely up to me. Now, I'm going to want to have some place where I can mix the paint. That's probably more water than I absolutely need. So let me bring that down a little bit. And let's just say we take the yellow here and we're going to add that into our paint. And let's stir that up and see what kind of results we get. Now, as you can see, obviously, that's going to thin the paint down quite a bit and get rid of a lot of those globs. It may take us a few moments to kind of stir this up, kind of like getting the lumps out of oatmeal. But what we're trying to do, of course, is to really blend the pigments in with the water, so we eventually end up with a much thinner paint that when we are working with it, it's going to give us the results we want. So let's see if I get most of those out of there. I can work with this. And now if we come in here and say, all right, now if I want to come in here and I want to paint, it's going to give me a lot more fluidity. It's looking a lot more like almost watercolor paint when it comes into play here, right? And so we can see just the difference between the top and the bottom here, that there's a very different result in how we can work with these paints and have them behave. Now, I will mention a few things. First of all, I want you to notice that on our watered down version, it's just that. It's a much thinner version of the paint, and the pigment isn't going quite as far because, in essence, we've broken it down. And one of the cautions when using any kind of water to thin acrylic paint is, yes, it will do the job of thinning that we want it to do, but it won't necessarily allow the paint to hold up, which means that the binding agents, the elements within the paint that help hold it to the canvas or to the paper, are also going to be compromised. And so while I may have made my paint thinner and makes it easier to paint with and spread, if that's my objective, I may also make it harder for this piece to age over time. And so that may not be the best solution. So what is another possible solution if water itself is not what we want to go with? Well, let's take a look at another possible medium here, and that is going to be rubbing alcohol. So this is 70% isopropyl alcohol. And again, I want to use a similar approach to what I used with my water. Let me just get a splash in here. And let's do some blue in this time. And we'll get that into the isopropyl alcohol. And again, it's an opportunity to stir this up. This actually will stir a lot faster than the water, just chemically. It allows us to break things down. So you can see this works out pretty nicely. And you may ask yourself, what's the difference then, and why would we choose to use rubbing alcohol instead of water that looks like it's going to be doing roughly the same thing? And I would say for most of what we're looking at here, yes, it does seem very similar, but the real difference is going to be the drying time. So if I come in here and I spread this out again, now my blue is very flexible, very fluid, as is what I was looking for. But one of the challenges here is that the alcohol, unlike the water, is going to evaporate very quickly. And so as it evaporates, it's also going to change the chemical composition of the paint for all intents and purposes. And what this is going to mean for us, of course, is that it could change what happens on the surface. And I want you to think of it almost like a mud puddle, right? If I pour water in a mud puddle under the desert sun, and that sun heats things up really quickly and evaporates that water off very quickly, it's going to end up leaving a crackle pattern behind, right? And that's really the same challenge we're going to run into using alcohol as a thinning agent. It's going to come in here and the alcohol is going to evaporate much faster than the water will. And as a result, it may leave behind a crackled texture in our paint. Now, once again, if that's what you're trying to achieve, then excellent, you're right on. But for a lot of people who are trying to create something that's, not going to be a crackle pattern, not what we're trying to do unless we're trying to recreate an old master of some sort, we might want to address that and run some experiments. Again, my recommendation is never use more than 20% alcohol as a thinning agent on a paint ratio. I think we actually have much higher than that. I think we're closer to 50% at ours, so we might run into some issues. So all I've given you so far is kind of bad news. Can we do this? Yes, there are pros and cons. But one of the things I want to address here as well is that when we are talking about working with thick colors like this, right? We have our yellow and we have our blue. Water, it breaks down the binding agents. Alcohol may dry inefficiently or unevenly and create some sort of a crackle pattern. Why use these? Well, the answer is because there's nothing, terribly wrong with either one of them. It's not like everything is either great or either horrible. There are pros and cons. And one of the things I will suggest to you when you're working with your acrylic paint colors and you want to do some sort of blending of colors together, water can really come in handy in the form of a spray bottle. Because what this allows me to do, instead of wetting all my paint down, is I can wet just a section. So if I have this section and say, okay, well, where the blue and the yellow come together, I kind of want to work that. It allows me to come in here and thin the paint in those areas and create a blending between in this case, my red and my blue and my yellow. I guess color blindness is happening here. And my yellow and my blue, and create this green in the middle. That's the objective. So we can be very careful and kind of spot on. So when you're working with a canvas, sometimes the challenge is you're fighting time, right? And the paint is drying faster than you can get around to it. And a spray bottle with a little bit of water in it can give you more time to work with what you're doing. So it's not bad. It's all got some relatively useful things going on. Again, depending upon what your needs are. However, there is a fantastic solution that takes care of a lot of the issues that we're dealing with here. I'm running out of fancy ramekin, so I'll use my unfancy ramekin here. And I want to share with you a fantastic tool, and that is what we call medium. Now, this medium here is a matte fluid medium, which means it has a matte finish, and this is a much more of a liquid medium. Now, what is medium? Well, the best way to think of medium is it's really an acrylic paint that has no pigmentation in it. And so unlike water, which thins things down, or adding white if we wanted to stretch our paint, which would tint it, what the medium allows us to do is to add this to our existing paint so we can thin it, but it doesn't decrease its pigmentation. In most cases, there might be a little bit of a variation in that case. For example, if I come in here and I put some yellow in my my makeshift palette here, go back to, all right, let's get some of our liquid medium in here. Pop this open. And again, it doesn't have to be too much to thin out what we have. It depends on what we're thinning. I'm going to do like a 50-50 here and then start to blend these guys together. So again, takes a moment to get the medium and the paint blended together so they're working well together cohesively as one color. Give yourself a few moments to do that. But again, the goal here is to be able to make this paint more useful and not so globby. And so in doing this, I can now come in here and then say, all right, well, now I have the smoothness I want. But The nice thing about working with the medium is we don't have the issues with the binders breaking down because we're just adding water. We don't end up with the possibility of this thing drying unevenly because we're using alcohol. And it makes it a lot easier for us to get some consistent and good coverage. And it's also a real pleasure. I mean, you can't necessarily see, but based upon what I'm doing, but with painting with some of the medium, it's a smoother process, and it just makes things really flow nicely. And I guess when you're doing like large blocks of color and you just want to have those clean lines, it's really nice to have something like this medium to work with, right? Now, the pros and cons, like anything else, the medium, I think, is a better solution. However, unlike water or what you might already have in your medicine cabinet, this is going to cost you a few dollars to do that. But it's always good, I believe, to have a bottle of any kind of this medium. You can get it in gloss format or matte format. I like having matte for the projects that I work on here. So there are a couple of things just to take away. Again, water will work, but it can break down the binding of the paint. Alcohol will work, but it can make some inconsistencies when things dry. And if that's the effect you're looking for, then spot on. And when you are working with liquid medium, it will cost you a few dollars, of course, to have this, but it's going to be a better solution and give you a much better look and feel overall. So anyway, those are some things I just wanted to quickly share with you today to get a deeper understanding of different ways that we can thin our paint and make it easier for us to use. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.